Hey, welcome back. I'm Keith Barry.
I'm Emily Thomas.
And I'm Kelly Funkhauser.
And this week, surprise, surprise, we're talking about another electric car. It is an embarrassment of riches here when it comes to cars with plugs, cars with batteries. And this one's a big one. Price-wise, footprint-wise, importance-wise, it is the Mercedes-Benz EQS. It's Mercedes' new all-electric flagship. We bought the all-wheel drive model, the EQS 580. It starts at around $125,000. Ours with options came to $135,875. Wow. It has a 340-mile range, a hatchback design. We know it's expensive. They're selling in the thousands of these so far. They're selling, but this is not a mass market car. But we bought this car more so to test it out for some of the features that it has that no other car has. Mercedes-Benz tends to do this. Their flagship cars have really been kind of public test beds for new technology. And historically, this has been the S-Class, the big sedan. It debuted anti-lock braking. It debuted the Distronic adaptive cruise control system. And now the S-Class is kind of playing second fiddle. The EQS is where it's at. So Kelly, what about this car makes it worth $135,000 that we had to spend in order to test this? What are we experiencing that nobody else is getting right now?
So we're experiencing a lot of the new bells and whistles. However, we are spending $100,000 less than the S-Class that we rented from Mercedes about a year ago that really had all the bells and whistles. So I'm actually excited to see a lot of similar bells and whistles on this still over $100,000 car, but much less expensive than the S-Class that we rented. And some of those things that I was excited about are like the adaptive cruise control. When you're using the system, I really like how there is a display on the instrument cluster that shows the traffic around the vehicle. So you can tell what the sensors are seeing. And then the vehicle that is in front of you, that essentially the adaptive cruise control is locked onto. So you're following that one for the speed control. It kind of shows this little bar underneath to say, hey, this is the one we're tracking. And if that vehicle leaves the lane, you see, the display of it leaving, and then that blue bar disappears. Same with if a car is coming into the lane. As soon as it's about halfway across the lane, a blue bar appears and says, hey, I'm going to follow this car. I've locked onto it. You'll probably get braking or some sort of speed change there. And that's really very cool for drivers to be able to understand really what the system sees and therefore how it's behaving, why it's behaving like that. Another thing that we discovered as we were testing the car has to do with headlights. And so I'm going to get the word right. They call them digital lights. Where you can turn on 3 different settings. One is for warnings, one is for assistance type of systems, and then another one is called a spotlight. And what this means is as you're driving, if you're using the blind spot warning and the lane departure warning systems, it will project using the high beams, basically like a little, an arrow on either side of the car. If you're trying to, you have your turn signal on and you're trying to move into the other lane, but there is a car in your blind spot, it will put this arrow and then give you a warning. Same thing with the lane keeping and lane departure.
Like on the pavement?
Like outside the car on the pavement in front of you. And so at first when I was reading about this, I didn't quite know how to feel about it, because in one way it could be a little embarrassing if everyone around you can see it, but it turns out it's pretty subtle. And I actually had to kind of look for it. And then once I knew it was there, then I could see it. But otherwise, you may never even notice that it's there. But the last one I want to get to is the pedestrian spotlight. I was unable to actually test this during, our quick time with the car so far. But I'm very interested to see how this one works, because it says when it detects a pedestrian, it will flash the high beams onto the pedestrian like a spotlight for fast time. So 4 quick flashes. I know, exactly. So I don't know if that's going to freak them out or not. So I definitely need to, get a setup where we can see this in action. But I was impressed with how subtle the other ones were. So I'm hoping that this one is also subtle and doesn't just blind a pedestrian unnecessarily.
Well, is the purpose of the spotlight to help you as the driver, or is it to tell the car in the next lane, hey, I'm trying to move over? I guess that's a part where I'm trying to figure out, like, where exactly is it projecting to? Is it so other drivers can also see that you're like trying to, and maybe they'll be nice enough to back up a little and get out of your way? Or
right. I think the intention is for the driver of the Mercedes. At least that's how it appeared when I was using it, because it just kind of displays it right in front of the car where the headlights naturally hit the ground in front of you. And it's kind of, along the lane lines, flanking either side, depending on which side the warning is being issued for. And again, it was pretty subtle in a way that I don't think it was meant for other cars. But in a way, I was glad that it was subtle, because I could also see how I don't want all the other cars to be like, whoa, what is going on with these weird projections and embarrassing
people try to swerve out of the way of light.
Yeah,
Light.
Exactly. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's like, but they don't know it's light, right? You know what I mean? Like if it was less subtle, like Kelly's saying, they might think there's something physically in the road that just kind of magically popped up that they're trying to get around. So it's like your turn signal indicator, but on the physical road for you.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yep.
Okay.
It really sounds like, Kelly, specifically, you have your work cut out for you with this vehicle. Because this
with the headlights. Yeah.
I mean, just the headlights alone. I mean, we're not even close to scratching the surface. I mean, we've had this car for what, a couple of weeks now?
I think so.
I spent 2 days in it, and I feel like I can't even share my opinion of it, other than the fact that I found it initially overwhelming. I need to sit down with the owner's manual. I need to learn like this Mercedes language they use. I need to figure out. I was overwhelmed, and
there's a lot of options in the car.
Oh my gosh! Just figuring out how to turn off the scent. All these pop-ups would come up and say, like, you look like you need to be energized. Do you want an energy program? And I'm like, I have no idea what that means.
You can choose your ambiance, Keith. There's like a joyful one. There's a calm and meditative, and it like changes the lights for you and adds like aromas to the car and cools your seat. And like, it does a whole, after I came home, told my husband when I got my turn in the car for a day, I was like, I would never go to a spa again. Like if I owned this car, I would just go sit in the driveway and be like, I'm going to have my ambiance. I'm going to have my 5 different kinds of massage.
It comes with those extra pillows too. So you can
and it has
really,
extra pillows.
Really get relaxed.
You could legitimately have a luxurious spa treatment.
What is what, like 8 different massage functions?
Heated, not heated, oh my goodness. But
activating,
that's the problem.
deep waves. Work like it was. I just kept pushing the buttons. I was like, "Oh, let's try this one," and that one feels good. Like I sat there for probably 10 minutes in the shop just trying to see what the different massages were. And I was like, "This is insane."
Emily, you were doing that while you were parked in the shop. The problem is that there are so many options, and you can do all of those while you're driving. And that's what's really concerning is that there are so many options.
It takes a minute to find them too. That was the other thing. Like. I was trying to adjust my seat comfort, and I know I had CarPlay set up, and I couldn't quite figure out how to get from the CarPlay screen to the other menu that would allow me to get into like my driver seat settings. And just trying to like, again, I was parked in the shop. So to your point, totally, like if I was, let's say if the massage was being too rough or something, or I needed to like turn it off, I wouldn't know how to get back. It took me like, even after I got to it and I tried to get back, I was like, now how do I get back to CarPlay, or how do I return to this again? So everything's embedded pretty deep, it feels like, or it's just too many options.
Yeah, and I would say largely one of the big issues, it's a beautiful screen. So we should probably point that out. It's a seamless piece of glass it's all the way across, and it's beautiful. So there's
the passenger has one
instrument cluster. There's the one in the center, and then the passenger has their own basically infotainment screen, which is like kind of cool and also kind of weird, more fingerprints, but whatever. I haven't played with it enough to have judgment on it. It could be cool, but everything is so big, and as a touch screen, when you're driving down the road at speed and it's bumpy, and you're trying to do any little tiny thing through the screen, it's near impossible. I had a particular frustration with just changing the volume on the radio. So there's two ways to do it. So you can either do it on the steering wheel, which is a touch capacitive slider.
Slide. I didn't know it was a slide.
Not great.
It's tiny.
Yeah. Or on the center console below the screen, there's a not touch capacitive. You actually have to push the button. So it's a little bit different to change the radio. And so if you accidentally screw up and push the steering wheel one, it turns it on to mute, but you also can't slide the other. Anyway, I was just having all sorts of problems with just even adjusting the radio a little bit because I would always go way too much. And so it's just,
I didn't know
crazy.
that it was a slide adjustment for the volume. So, because there's nothing that really would help you know that it's a slide. So I was like, oh, plus, great, push. And then it just shut off. And I was like, not plus? Like,
here's
what
the thing.
did I do?
On our phones, which pretty much no matter what brand you have, they almost look the same, right? They're touch screens. There's a huge screen right there. However, we still have hard buttons on the side of our phones, even though we're decades into this whole smartphone screen thing. We still have those because buttons are good, especially for small changes, like just changing the volume up and down 1 or 2. And so, don't fix what ain't broken. In fact, like they broke it, I think, by going touchscreen way. There's a reason we still have hard buttons, even though we've got this giant screen here. Let's keep those in the car.
I found that the buttons, even the things that did exist. So for instance, the sunroof control, it's the design of it. It's kind of like a big bubble, it's very interesting. It's a hatchback. It has this big windshield. It has a very large sunroof. It's very airy. It's very nice. But also the day I drove, it was a real sunny day. The air conditioning just kept blasting really loudly, and I had trouble figuring out how to turn that down. Actually, one of the best things about the passenger screen is if you have a passenger, you can just say, "Hey, take care of the air conditioning for me. Change the volume for me."
You have to have a passenger to do that because you should not be doing that while you're driving.
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out, so I just said, "Hey, can you fix that for me? I am done." But I found in order to, so basically you have to caress the button for the sunroof in order to get it to close. If you push it, it tilts or it moves back. But if you kind of very gently touch it, it will close the shade on it. And it is really hard to have that level of dexterity while you're driving. And I also imagine, I'm not trying to stereotype here, but most people who are going to spend $140,000 on a sedan have probably earned some money in their lifetime, and their lifetime might be longer as a result. The S-Class, I think of, as a wealthy, that's a retirement car. That is a reward for a life well lived. And I just imagine as my hands get worse and worse as I get older from years of typing, if I'm having trouble with that, how are my hands going to feel in 20, 30 years trying to adjust a button that if you touch it, it does this. If you push it, it does that. If you push it harder, it does something different. While the car it's very smooth. I mean, it's incredibly smooth and comfortable, but no car is smooth enough that you can have that level of precision.
Nuance.
Yeah, I think Emily was onto something with the spa in your garage. I think that's the person that should buy this, is the person that doesn't want to go to the spa anymore and just park it in your garage, because you can do all these things while you're parked.
That's like multiple spa visits together. Yeah. That's a lifetime of spa right there.
That's a lot of spa.
Just leave it plugged in.
So maybe that's who needs to buy this car.
It's not like it would be dangerous either. It's electric. You're plugged. It's great.
Totally.
We've been talking about this for 15 minutes now, just about the toys in it. So let's maybe move towards the other big thing about this car, and that's its range. Emily, we were talking about this earlier, about how we felt this moved past a point when it came to the range of the vehicle. What do you think about it?
Yeah, so this one comes in, you said, around 340, which is a little bit closer to Tesla model range, which people are willing to take for longer trips. There's way more infrastructure available for Teslas as well, so they can charge much more easily. This is even if I had a gas car that had only like a 300-mile range, I'm like, great, I can still find a gas station and quickly fuel up and get going. So I think the ranges gives me more flexibility, but the infrastructure isn't necessarily there. And I think you had some issues maybe getting enough charge near you, Keith.
I was fine, but almost, I wasn't able to get the full 350-mile range. Those big batteries take a long time to recharge on a home charger, like a level 2 charger, which is what we have at the track, which is what we have at our homes, which is what they have at, the local grocery store where I plugged in. The person who had the car prior to me drove it a lot and really spent a lot of time with it. And then by the time I got it, it only had about 180 miles on it. And one of my coworkers said, "Oh, just look for an Electrify America station. You can get a rapid charge." There are 3 east of New Haven, and they were all 40 miles from the house. So, and pretty far from the track. So, that isn't as easy as, Tesla with their supercharger network. I will say, for all the complaints about the interior of the EQS, at least the steering wheel is round. So, but with that said, the Model S still has has more range and a better charging network. So I think, if I were out there buying a large sedan EV, if I had $140,000 to spend on an EV, it would be an interesting choice, because it would have to be, choosing which compromise I dislike the most. What do you think, folks think?
I was going to say, at 140,000, there were still systems. I know it has a lot of the new cool ADAS kinds of features that we're keeping an eye on, and that Kelly has a lot of interest in. In my realm of, child passenger safety and rear occupant protection, I would expect that at that price point, you should be able to get more systems in place for rear occupants. So even things as simple as a rear belt minder or an end of trip reminder for, heat stroke prevention. You can't get that on 140,000 Mercedes-Benz vehicle. You can get those, though, on a Nissan Rogue, and I can guarantee you could probably buy a couple of Nissan Rogues at 140,000. So that's always the disconnect for me. It's it has all these cool features, and maybe the demographic doesn't necessarily have kids, but they might have grandchildren. They might have nieces and nephews that they're carting around. They might have other rear occupants that should also be considered. And a lot of the emphasis in this vehicle is on, the comfort of the front occupants, which, again, great, and having that luxurious reward at the end of your career is an awesome thing. But I really do want to push for the safety equity of all occupants, and at those price points, you should be able to get that, especially if you can get it on a much more affordable mainstream vehicle.
Yeah, especially for a car that's already debuting so much interesting tech. They should at least have what's already out there.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed. So I'm looking forward to spending more time in it. Emily, I'm sure, is going to also looking forward to spending more time in it, trying all 8 massage settings. We're going to put it through all of our normal tests on the track. And we will have a first drive review on this, and we'll have a full review in the future at cr.org. But there is so much to say about this vehicle. I imagine it's going to be a little longer than usual. So looking forward to that. I'm glad I don't have to write it. We're going to move on to questions. A great question that JB from Chattanooga, Tennessee sent to TalkingCars@iCloud.com. And you can be like JB. You can send a question to TalkingCars@iCloud.com. JB says, back in October 2021, I ordered a Ford Maverick Hybrid XLT from my local dealer. Ooh, interesting choice. At the time, they were accepting Ford X-Plan pricing, which is a discounted pricing structure that Ford offers for Maverick orders. While this was not a screaming deal by any means, it was a bit below sticker. I've kept my retail purchase agreement document I received when I placed my order, and I am still awaiting the arrival of my truck. But as I've heard more and more about charging over sticker, dealerships charging over sticker, I've become increasingly concerned the dealer will try and charge me more than the price we agreed on months ago. Can they do this? Or are they bound to the agreed price we negotiated when the order was made? Do I have any recourse if they do try and change the price after the fact? Well, I reached out to a consumer attorney, and he let me know that, a purchase, what I sort of suspected here is that a purchase order, it's a contract to buy a car at a certain price. And if a dealership tries to get more money for the car than what the purchase order says, in some states, that would be a violation, and it would also be a breach of contract. But what can you do if they do try and change that? I mean, the first thing you can do is you can hold firm and say, I have a signed contract here. But it's not like there are a bunch of other Maverick hybrids sitting on dealer lots and you can walk away. But long story short, you should be able to get that car for sticker. The other thing you might want to watch out for is that they might, at the end, when it comes time to sign all the paperwork, they might really try and push something like an extended warranty or nitrogen-filled tires or something else that might make them money. So watch out for that. Even if the price on the truck stays the same, they might add some more onto there. And this is something that we're seeing more and more with these in-demand vehicles, right? Kelly, I know you had an example from your family. And that a lot of people had this problem. Yeah.
Right. Recently, too. Yeah. My in-laws have a reservation for the Rivian SUV. And not too long ago, a couple months ago, we all got an email saying that they were going to raise the price by, a lot of money. And it didn't go over well, at least on social media. There was a lot of outrage publicly. And so they ended up kind of reverting back and apologizing for that. But the difference with them is that they don't have a purchase agreement. They just have a deposit down. And so that final price is not locked in stone by any means at this point. And so, if the price changes and fluctuates before they get the car, they don't have a signed contract. And so they would end up having to pay whatever the price is at that time when it becomes available. So it's, a totally different animal, but also not too great.
So JB, it sounds like you're going to be okay, but there are just a couple of things to look out for. And if it turns out someone tries and pulls one over on you, let Ford know, because they don't want their dealers to be making a bad experience for their customers. They want to sell cars. So let them know. I think that's about all the time we have now for Talking Cars. But thank you so much for joining us today. We've talked everything from inexpensive trucks to incredibly expensive EVs. And if you have any questions, send them to TalkingCars@iCloud.com. Thanks for talking cars with us, and we'll see you again soon.